Well, joining me now from Tripoli in Lebanon is Mustafa Allouch. He's a former MP with the Prime Minister's Future Movement Party. In Beirut, we have the Secretary General of the opposition Sabaa party, Jad Dagher. And also in Beirut is the director of the Levant Institute for Strategic Affairs, Sami Nader. Sami, let me start with you. People are looking at Lebanon more than half a year on from those general elections. The politicians can't form a cabinet. What's the problem?
The official reason and the real reason. The official reason that the different stakeholders did not agree yet on a power sharing formula, and they did not agree on the number of seats allocated to each one of the major party. The real reason, in my view, is related to the regional dynamic. This is the same reason why you don't have yet a government in Iraq, why the same reason why you don't still have a political settlement in Syria despite the end of the war. And this is why, as well, you don't have a government in Lebanon. It's a struggle between the regional powers. The formation of a government in Lebanon is a bargaining chip today on the table of negotiation, and Lebanon has seen similar cases.
Right.
Let us not forget that the government in 2015 came to the command after 11 months of political void, and it was in Davos that it was announced through Mr. Jawad Zarif, who said that it's time today to form a government in Lebanon, and it was related to the struggle between USA and Iran at that time.
Right. Okay. So Sami's saying the real reason is the regional geopolitics, and I guess if Sami can correct me if he thinks I'm wrong, but he means the Iranian-Saudi Cold War, the tensions between the United States and the Iranians, the situation in Syria, the Qatar crisis, and so on. Mustafa Allouch, Hezbollah says the solution is very close and that they are very close to overcoming the impasse. We believe the solution is very close, said Mahmoud Qamati. Do you believe him?
Well, the issue of the government forming in Lebanon is the problem with it is both essential and circumstantial. So the essential is the quality of the governmental issue in Lebanon, which is related to the sectarian vetoes, inter-sectarian vetoes and inter-political vetoes. But at the same time, the association of these vetoes and this situation with the regional situation. Well, when Mr. Qamati says that the government is close or it can be achieved very soon, this is what we have been hearing for months. And sometimes politicians say that the government is close just to say that they are not responsible for delaying the construction of the government. But we know that the most important factor now in constructing a government in Lebanon are the vetoes from one part against the other. Right. And everyone is trying to just shift the attention towards the other in order to say that he is not responsible for this. However, I think that we have come to an impasse in our situation where no one can really push the other, nor any overwhelming power can push everyone towards forming a government.
Okay, that's an interesting point. So hold on for a second. So if you'll allow me to bring in Jad, and I apologize for interrupting you, but we don't have much time, so I want to keep this moving on. If you allow me to bring in Jad Dagher, there's an interesting point made by Mustafa Allouch, saying there's an impasse, it's the veto power of everybody. We heard from Sami Nader, it's the regional geopolitics at play. So isn't the entire political system in Lebanon under scrutiny here? The system seems to be broken. It doesn't work.
Well, actually, we don't think it's the system. We think that, first of all, the issue of the sectarian divide For us as Sabaa, we believe that this is just an excuse by the political parties in Lebanon to keep the grip on their supporters. As for the international or regional problem, I have a question here. Why would a regional problem stand in the way of the formation of a cabinet in Lebanon if it were not for the fact that our political parties currently in Lebanon have allegiance to foreign powers? Allegiance because they are funded by those foreign powers. We have to be realistic here. If we had political parties which are really sovereign, then why would these foreign problems result in the non-formation of a cabinet in Lebanon?
Right, and that's a good point. So Sami Nader, let's look at some of the gripes of the protesters on the streets. A lot of young people across sectarian lines, across the political divide, some of them even wore yellow vests with the cedar tree. They're saying no jobs, electricity cuts, pollution, nobody picking up the trash, lack of healthcare. That has nothing to do with Saudi Arabia or Iran or the geopolitics. People aren't picking up the trash on the street. How do the two mix?
Because you have a society on one hand and you have the political forces or the political parties on the other hand. There is more than an allegiance of these parties to the regional power. There is some of them are an integral part of this regional power. Look at Hezbollah, for instance. This is the military arm of Iran on the Lebanese scene. It has an army, it has a system, as a state inside the states. And there is a total divorce between the society, the Lebanese society, and those who are the forces who are in power. People are looking for their basic rights that those you mentioned. They are demonstrating to acquire these rights, while the political parties, namely those who have today upper hand on at the national level, they have a different agenda. They are looking, their ambition is more than what the aspiration of the Lebanese population.
Let me ask Mustafa Allouch. Mustafa Allouch, for those who have that cynical view, and they say, well, the reason there are problems on the ground is because Hezbollah is loyal to Iran and only needs to make Iran happy, not the Lebanese voters. And on the other hand, the future movement just has to make Saudi Arabia happy and not the Lebanese voters. That's why there are problems on the streets. What do you think?
We definitely have a constitutional problem, and this constitution needs to be revised some way. But at the same time, we cannot do this without having all the armed forces under the reign of the government, under the reign of the state. So when we say that we have a problem called Hezbollah now, it's not because they have a political view or just they are associated with Iran. It's because they have an army, a full army, which is independent of everyone in Lebanon, causing still a situation which has a great difficulty in solving it. This is why we are not having a real democracy. One of the reasons, definitely, in association with the impasse in our political system that has been there since 1943 when we had our independence.
Okay, so Jad, does the man make a good point that while the other side is supported by the Saudis, they don't have a separate army within a state that Hezbollah has?
Of course, obviously this is a problem, and this is why we are calling for an immediate start of real negotiations between Hezbollah and the Lebanese state. However, we need to clarify a point here. First of all, we cannot keep talking of a constitution problem, especially at this point. We have an emergency public finance situation and an economic crisis. We need to form a cabinet ASAP. Now, I don't think that the cabinet is stopped actually by the arms today. What is stopping the cabinet today is the fact that the political parties who won the elections are not understanding that it is their duty to agree and not just a luxury to agree. They need to agree as soon as possible. They need to make concessions and to move forward. Now, after we form a cabinet, we can move to a discussion of, reforming some points in the constitution. But we cannot keep talking of big constitutional problems and, starting from zero all the time in this country, while we let, citizens, actually some citizens even starving from food or, no health coverage. We have very, very serious problems in this country.
Yeah, and those young people on the street are definitely highlighting a lot of the serious problems in the country. Sami, I want to ask you about the upcoming investment summit. So you have the president saying we need this summit to boost investment, but Prime Minister Speaker of Parliament Nabi Berri is saying, I'm not so sure, saying in the absence of a government and because Lebanon should have a uniting, not divisive role, and because we don't want the summit to be a failure, I think it should be postponed. Where do you stand on that, Sami, this Arab Economic Development Summit? Is Lebanon fit enough to host it?
Lebanon is supposed to be fit enough, and this would have been an excellent opportunity for Lebanon. It comes at a time where Lebanon needs all kind of help in order to get out of its economic crisis, of its very serious economic crisis. Unfortunately, what happened at the political level, this internal fight we had over the summit, some people are asking to cancel it or to postpone it. This ended up with a level of representation that is really very low, because the Arab countries lost hope about Lebanon, and they practically, you have no chief of state who's coming in Lebanon. And this one additional missed opportunity, while we would have leverage this event in order to finance the different investment program we had. We had at least 2 economic plans that were prepared. One was prepared by a consulting firm, McKinsey, and another plan was decided on Paris last year, what they called the Cedar Conference. These 2 plans need fresh money, need investors, and this event would have been an excellent opportunity to raise this money. And once more, the Lebanese political force failed to meet this opportunity.
Right. Jad, very finally, the IMF has said that Lebanon's growth will be about 1% in 2019. There are very few jobs to go around. There's political deadlock. If somebody is a 23, 24-year-old university graduate, why would they want to stay?
They would not want to stay, actually, if we do not take immediate steps, reforms, real socio-economic plans, and not only economic plans. It has taken our attention that, for example, the McKinsey plan is called an economic plan. We see that this country needs a complete socio-economic plan, and this actually is the result of how we see politics in this country. We give very little importance to the citizen, his health, his education, etc. Now, in the McKinsey plan, it is mentioned somewhere, but there is no serious social plan in the McKinsey plan. So this is a very serious issue. This is why, if a cabinet is not formed immediately and we see really miracle reforms, then let this political class confess that they have failed, and to even form a cabinet, and let us eventually go to early elections and try to find, responsible people to govern this country. I want to say something here which is very important, so that we don't see that our country is doomed. The main problem in this country is that we do not have real cross-sectarian political parties which can become a majority. This is not a dream. This is a very realistic objective. In the United States, you have 2 main political parties. For example, the party of Mr. Allouch, who is one of the biggest parties in Lebanon, does not represent more than 15% in the parliament, which means that we are now governed by a big number of minorities minority political parties. What we need are large cross-sectarian political parties.
Got it.
And this is why we have founded Sabaa, in order to go into this direction. There is no quick fix in this country, but we need responsible people to move forward quickly.
Okay. Well, people are out on the streets. They have been out on the streets. It's going to be interesting to see if the politicians are listening, especially to the young people. Sami Nader, Jad Dagher, and Mustafa Allouch. I'm out of time, but thank you very much for joining us.